Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, fought to maintain the Union during the Civil War. He is credited with ending slavery in the U.S. through the Emancipation Proclamation. In 1914, American architect Henry Bacon began building a memorial to honor his life and achievements.
The major argument presented by this memorial is that Lincoln should be commemorated for his strength and compassion, which allowed him to protect unity and freedom in the Union. This argument is supported through visual elements and texts in the monument. Lincoln's left hand is clenched in a fist to show his strength and determination to win the war. His right hand is relaxed to show his compassion to the South after the war and his refusal to choose revenge over unity. In constructing the monument, marble was brought from many different states all over the U.S. to honor how Lincoln fostered unity among the states after the Civil War.
The memorial is located on the western end of the National Mall, looking out towards the Washington Monument. It is directly across the Memorial Bridge from Arlington House, the Robert E. Lee Memorial. This was done to symbolize the unity between the two halves of the U.S. after the war. The monument occupies a very solemn psychological space for many Americans. It is seen as a sacred space for many progressive movements, particularly the civil rights movement. Because of this, the atmosphere inside the memorial is generally respectful and somewhat serious. However, the outside areas around the memorial are often also used for recreation, wedding proposals, or graduation photos.
The murals placed on top of the Gettysburg Address and Second Inaugural Address represent freedom and togetherness, respectively. The mural representing freedom is titled Emancipation and shows the Angel of Truth with her arms up, freeing enslaved people. The second mural, titled Unity, features the Angel of Truth joining hands between the people of the North and the South, and her wings are bringing people together. The people on the left of the mural represent fraternity, and the people on the right represent charity.
The North and South chambers of the Lincoln Memorial have engravings of the Second Inaugural Address and Gettysburg Address, respectively. The Second Inaugural Address preaches unity for the North and South, saying that he wants to unify a broken nation. He also goes against the popular belief that the South should be punished by saying that they have suffered enough from the war and they should be forgiven. He addresses unity under the same country and religion by saying fellow countrymen, and stating that both read the same Bible and pray to the same God. He also discusses the evils of slavery and how he wanted freedom for all. This text correlates to the hand showing compassion. The mural entitled Unity above the Second Inaugural Address is a visual representation of the speech and shows how he fought to join together the North and the South. On the opposite side of the memorial, the Gettysburg Address is shown. This is a motivational speech to finish the war. He says that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and quotes the Declaration of Independence by saying all men are created equal. The tone changes over the course of the address from mourning to motivational, as Lincoln starts by discussing liberty at the founding of America, then the loss of it, and finally the need to regain liberty. This strength and perseverance is also represented in his clenched hand and in the mural above the engraving entitled Emancipation, which represents the ending of slavery.
The architect Henry Bacon commissioned himself to be painted in one of the murals in order to present himself as one of the people responsible for the unity and freedom that Lincoln worked hard for. Also, the text on the sides of the monument serve as evidence that Lincoln did indeed work for his governing principles, instead of merely using them as a campaign tactic. The sheer size of Lincoln makes an impact on the viewer and conveys an understanding that he was an important historical figure. Additionally, the motivational speeches that line the wall show the problems with the nation at the time and how Lincoln worked towards solving them, which leaves the viewer somber yet in awe that he was able to unite such a divided nation and work towards more equality for all. Since the murals serve as proof of his leadership and his action, they back up the memorial and explain why he should be memorialized. Additionally, the placement of his hands represent freedom and unity, which show his values were personal and not merely a part of his job. The design of the Lincoln Memorial is intended to emulate the Parthenon and its values for democracy with the use of columns and Greek architecture. As a whole, the monument serves as a metaphor for the greatness of Lincoln's achievements and his legacy.
Regardless, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Lincoln and his memorial. At the dedication ceremony for the memorial in 1922, the audience was segregated and there was only one black speaker. This seems to undermine the values of freedom and unity that the memorial claims to represent. Additionally, there have been a lot of controversy surrounding Lincoln's life. Some believe that he is given too much credit for his role in ending slavery, and that he was motivated to pass the Emancipation Proclamation by selfish reasons, rather than a desire to protect freedom. So we were wondering, how do you view this space? Do you consider it a sacred space, or would you consider it more of a space for recreation?
I say a sacred space.
And why do you say that?
Well, I mean, it's a tribute to Abraham Lincoln, one of our presidents.
And do you think that Lincoln deserves to be memorialized and honored as much as he is, or less, or more?
As much as he is, maybe more. I think he was a good man. He had a hard job, that's for sure.
And what is the significance of this monument for you personally or for American culture?
Well, I think it's good for people like my grandchildren up there to see him, know all about him, for the country to pay respects to him.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do you view this space as a sacred space or as a place to relax? How do you view this area?
I think it's a bit of both, actually. I think this the green area around here is really lovely. It's what I'm doing right now, having a sip. But I think there is a reverence that comes through the memorial and the other memorials in the area. It's a way to recognise America's history and the good things that different presidents and people have done.
That's actually a great follow-up. So we were wondering, do you think Lincoln and this monument memorializes him too much, too little, not enough? What do you think about that?
He's the statue's very large.
Yeah.
This is probably coming from a different perspective. As I said, so I'm Australian and we don't have a lot of big monuments and things like this at home. So this feels very, very grand to me. And I can't imagine anything like this being put up in Australia. Yeah. So it's very, very different. I don't think I'm necessarily the person to say if it is enough or isn't enough. I find it potentially a bit more grand than I would expect, but I still think it's beautiful, and he obviously did a lot of very great things for America. So
there have been a lot of events like Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech was on this. Do you think the purpose of this monument was to give way or give room for social movements in the future, or do you think it's just coincidence that it happened in this area?
I think the space more generally probably was designed to allow those things to happen, but I think President Lincoln's life and what he did during his presidency gave way for those particular moments for social change. I think are very specific to him, and I think that's obviously I think more broadly designed to be a public space and a place we can do these things. But I think for Lincoln, I think social change and that sort of thing is great.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Despite the controversy surrounding the memorial, it played an important role as a site of many major events during the Civil Rights Movement. In 1939, Marianne Anderson, an African-American singer, gave a concert in front of a diverse audience after being denied to perform at Washington Concert Hall because of her race. The performance was broadcasted over the radio to listeners across the country, including a 10-year-old Martin Luther King Jr. 24 years later, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, which shows the continued use of this monument for the fight for equality in the United States. There is a plaque on the steps of the monument that commemorates this iconic moment in history. The future of the Lincoln Memorial will continue to mold to the ever-changing needs of the country and continue to represent Lincoln's values of unity and freedom.